Hello, thanks for listening to my presentation. My name is DARIO GONZALEZ, and I will be discussing the importance of censoring misinformation on social media platforms. There are a few things I would like to discuss today. One, what is misinformation? Two, why is censorship of misinformation important? Three, what is the root cause or why does misinformation exist? Four, what laws and regulations have been put in place to fight misinformation? And five, what has been social media's response to this issue? It is important to mention that I am doing this presentation in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic. I say this because I am sure everyone is or has been glued to the news at some point this year. And we all have heard the term made famous by the 45th President of the United States, Donald Trump, fake news, tossed around. Well, misinformation is commonly referred to as fake news. Misinformation is defined by the Journal of Economic Perspective as news articles that are intentionally and verifiably false and could mislead its readers. So now that we understand what misinformation is, let's discuss why censoring it on social media platforms is so important. The first thing is that social media users are growing. According to a global social media overview July 2020 report, social media users now exceed half the world's population, roughly 4 billion users, and have experienced a growth of 10% since last year. All these users are getting exposed to news articles on their social media feeds and are potentially using these articles to supplement their news source. So, potentially, a portion of half the world's population is using social media to intake a portion of their daily news. Not only are they getting exposed to it, they are sharing these articles as well, whether intentionally or not. In what feels like the old days of social media, you would have to manually click share this article, but now all it takes is for a user to like, comment, or interact in some way with an article, and their entire friends, family, network will get exposed to the content. What this all ties back to is these growing users are unable to differentiate what is real versus what is fake. To quantify this issue, a large-scale survey conducted by Ipsos discovered that social media news readers believed the fake news headlines about 75% of the time. This ethical issue has severe consequences as it can lead to people to construe opinions and thoughts about certain topics versus letting people create their own opinions on topics based off factual information. As an example, one of these decisions that may greatly impact our lives is whether or not to vaccinate our children, or who is the best candidate to vote for in a presidential election. So it's clear, fake news is bad. Well, then why does it exist? Unfortunately, one of the root causes of evil is monetization. Due to the large number of users on these platforms, it is an easy target for malicious actors. Fake news tends to have clickbait headlines such as FBI agent suspected in Hillary Clinton's email leaks found dead in apparent murder-suicide. This article with this headline was actually shared 500,000 times on Facebook alone before it was identified as misinformation and taken down. So what typically happens is a user will click on one of these clickbait headlines and they are redirected to a site where the malicious actors are selling ads. Not only are the malicious actors getting compensated through the ad revenue, but the social media companies are also getting a piece of the pie as it becomes a referral via the click the user selected prior to being redirected to the site. An ethical issue is evident when social media permits sharing of misinformation and are getting compensated for it. The other reason why fake news exists is to shape political and social views. I think what brings these two to light are examples. So let's first discuss how social media platforms have been used to shape political opinions. The most famous case is the United States 2016 election, where there was foreign interests who used fake news to attempt to alter voters via Facebook. I do want to highlight that this is not a United States problem though. This issue is a global issue. Other countries in Europe and South America believe that Facebook was used for political manipulation during their elections as well. In fact, Facebook has had to attend numerous court hearings on the matter. This is an extremely dangerous practice that can have misinformed very influential outcomes. Now let's talk about social issues. The example I want to bring to your attention involves a country named Myanmar. Myanmar is a developing country with limited access to the internet. In fact, when its residents think of the internet, what comes to mind is Facebook. The government of Myanmar and other bad actors used Facebook as a weapon to its citizens. They used it to spread misinformation and propaganda against Muslims, which unfortunately led to mass killings, burning of entire villages, and mass rape. The outcome of this situation was that 700,000 Muslims had to flee the country. So it's pretty evident that the stakes are high when it comes to misinformation on these platforms. Governments around the world understand the power of misinformation or fake news. Realizing the extreme danger of it and its need to be controlled, they have put into practice laws and regulations to help fight the issue. For example, some countries have created task forces to fight misinformation. In Canada, the Anti-Misinformation Task Force will be led by 5 non-political officials and is part of their rapid response mechanism. In France, a law was passed in 2018 that gives authorities the power to the courts to remove fake content spread via social media and even block the sites that publish it in the 3 months before election periods. In the United States, Congress announced a bill that will require online platforms such as Facebook and Google to keep copies of ads, make them public, and keep tabs on who is paying for them and how much they are paying. In Nigeria, the government is providing a guide on how to deal with misinformation to its citizens. So I do want to stress that the purpose of this presentation is not to blast social media, and I want to give them credit on how they're actively addressing the issue. These platforms are making efforts to filter out erroneous information and refining their technology to identify misinformation. In fact, Facebook began to identifying advertisements and spam sites that profit from spreading fake news. They removed hundreds of thousands of state-sponsored social media accounts that promoted polarizing political messages and are using third parties like factcheck.org to ensure integrity on publications. Google has actually turned down ad revenue by not allowing Google-focused advertising to appear on sites that misrepresent, misstate, or conceal information. YouTube and Twitter have banned content around conspiracy theories or hoaxes that they feel can lead to potential violence. And then lastly, journalists have pushed to improve the accuracy and objectivity of reporting news in order to outweigh the fake news reaching social media. To conclude, social media has had a large influence on shaping opinions on important topics. By allowing fake news or misinformation to saturate social media platforms, we are endangering our society while letting malicious actors and the platform itself make money off us. I hope the one thing you take away from this presentation is that if an article sounds fishy, you should do your due diligence and ensure that the source is reputable, and if something sounds off, use a fact checker. Thank you for your time. I hope this presentation will make you more aware of the existence of fake news and the impact it can have in our daily lives.